Hello and welcome to the Gerry Leeds United show. I'm here with Brian G. We've just finished a few sort of 5-10 minutes ago. We finished the game Leeds 2, Crystal Palace nil. So another good win for Leeds. First Monday night football victory, and God knows how many years that's been. So as I say, I'm here with Brian. And what's your initial thoughts on the performance, Brian?
Well, I think the first thing was we needed to win, and so job done. I think we also needed to probably get over ourselves with the pitch, because I thought the last couple of home games before we relayed the pitch wasn't great. There was a lot of maybe a few excuses been made about it. Wasn't a great surface, but then against Everton, you could see that the pitch wasn't quite settled down. There was a lot of slipping. Now there was probably a bit of, I think a few of the lads slipped about. Klitsch slipped early in the match. So there's a couple of other slips. But I don't think the pitch behaved itself a lot better tonight. I thought the pace of it was good, and it just suited our game a lot better. So in terms of job done, absolutely all the boxes ticked. Most of the lads put in a good show. Didn't need to use too many substitutes. So I mean, I would imagine if you're the manager, you're walking off there thinking that's exactly what we ordered. So, and there were loads of, I thought the Sky commentary tonight was good. I don't know what you thought yourself, Gerry. There was really loads of good information. Nobody's done us over twice in the league so far where we've had doubles. And, Palace sort of made us look like like men against boys when they beat us 4-1 in November. That's only 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago. And the one thing that Bielsa showed with the second season was he learned a lot in this. The first season learned a lot, didn't come out and make too many of the same mistakes second time round. And you definitely saw the way they played Palace tonight. They didn't quite let their big lads dominate us the way they did at Selhurst Park. That's what I think anyway. So what do you think?
I thought it was quite a comfortable performance. There were obviously there were some situations where there was just a few times where you always kind of know that whenever people run at us, you know that if you beat one man with a man-to-man system, you're in trouble. And there was a few times the guy Izzy had me panicking. But
Yeah.
as you say, it was a good performance. Like it was. Sometimes it was like we went 1-0 up and then we kind of looked comfortable and it was 2-0 and you were just like it kind of felt like it was we were waiting for the final whistle. Like we felt like the job was done. There was big periods of just holding on to possession. And in some ways it maybe shows the maturity of the team. It's interesting. I don't know whether you've seen we're saying about the pitch. I don't know whether you caught Bamford there. Bamford says that apparently at half time he switched to rugby studs. Um,
All right.
so
Okay.
there must be some, probably as you say, it hasn't settled in fully, but I suppose maybe Leeds against Everton kind of got the experience of it, and probably tonight then they were wise to it, and a bit smarter with it. But it'll obviously, as you say, the pitch against Brighton was embarrassing, really, like the state of it, and it didn't suit us at all. Um, but yeah, on the game, I thought it was good. The only worry I would have is Calvin Phillips. I hope that he's not badly injured as he was thought he was brilliant tonight. He and those two games, as you were saying about sort of like doing the double and stuff on teams, and we played Leicester and we played Crystal Palace back to back earlier in the season, lost them both 4-1. Calvin Phillips missed both games, come back, played in them both this time, and we beat them to it. We beat them both this time. So he is, as much as I love Rafinha. Calvin Phillips is obviously a very important player. What do you think of his 200th game tonight? What do you think of
Well, I
Calvin
mean,
Phillips?
first of all, it's great to have a local lad in the team. I think the team's always done well over the years, and I've been supporting them probably a bit longer than you, but they've always done well when they've had that, not too many stars, some good, some really good team ethic. Even the great Revy team, there were some pretty good players, but there's no real sort of outstanding players. I maybe get a bit of abuse about that, but we've always been made up of good teams. And I think it's really rewarding to see, local lads who've been through the academy getting the chance to get in and play, 200 games. And look, I'm going to ask myself what age he is now, but he's in his early 20s. He's got 200 games behind him. And Bielsa's really forged him into that really good position. Actually, just while we're on that, I mean, I'm not a big fan of international football. Maybe if Ireland or Northern Ireland are playing, and if it's in a competition, I'm probably going to give it a look. But it's a bit frustrating to see Phillips pleased for him to get into the international team and then get played, in a position that, is just, he usually gets paired alongside another defensive midfield player, which to me is a bit of a waste of time. Really, really pleased about him. I thought Strike tonight was another really good performance under his belt, and we've got Laurent and Cock out. And, I know that we've sort of struggled with that midfield, but if you take a look at the players, to me, if you think about it being like a Kentucky derby, and you think of who are the players who've really, moved up notches during the last 20 games. Strike played against Liverpool. I think the first game he had a couple of good touches, but he looked a bit naive. To me, his improvement over these last 8 or 9 or 10 games that he's been in has been pretty spectacular. I think he's got a bit of a 50p head shape because a couple of his headers tonight were. I'm using that line. It was using Sky, but one of the headers that he missed, I think either you or I probably could have got it a wee. We mightn't have got it on target. Might have been a bit closer, but really pleased the way he's come on. And when you look at the youngsters in the team, that gives me great hope for what might happen in the second half of the season. And then if Bielsa stays, and given now that he's been there quite some time, he's already longer than anywhere else that he's been. If he stays another year, at least, I would hope that all those lessons learned, because he does seem to be a learner, will then you move on and get some of these other players from who are coming into the team. There was only, do you know what? In moving on to. Did I think there was any area where I didn't think we were brilliant tonight? I thought in a team of that performed really well, I was a bit disappointed with Alioski tonight. I thought that he didn't use the ball brilliantly. I thought he lost the ball a couple of times at the wrong time. There were a couple of challenges that he missed. And he's really sort of blows a wee bit hot and cold for me. But yet, interestingly, when you look at the stats and you look at the goals, because he's scored 3 goals this year, which for a fullback, when he scored, I think 30 odd goals for a fullback, 10% of your goals, you can't knock that. But I thought he had a wee bit of a ropey night tonight. But the other 10, you could hardly fault him. I don't know what you think yourself. Maybe you have a different opinion.
I think on Alioski, I think just. I wouldn't really fault him as much, not necessarily for tonight, but just sort of overall, he isn't a left back, he's not. That's not where he plays or where he should be playing. I think definitely sometimes whenever he's going forward, it can be a good addition, and then the way he plays, he can work well there. But I do tend to agree, I think when you're going back and it's a backs to the wall sort of job, and that guy that he was up against, certainly in the Franco guy, is he switched wings in the second half. Yeah, I think he's a quality player.
He's a big lad, and Alioski isn't that big.
No,
or at least he doesn't appear to be. Yeah.
No, I think he's only about 5'6", 5'7". So he's not very big. But I think if I was sitting and I was in the room whenever they're laying out the transfers next year, the very first position I would be going for is a left back. I think we do. I think we need to strengthen there. I wouldn't even mind seeing the wee guy Davis that's been playing for sort of like on the bench and stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing him getting a few games. But as you say,
you could really. I mean, if you look at Dallas, I think Dallas is well, of course, the thing is, sort of take a step back and say, left back, right back at Leeds isn't really a normal player, because the versatility of the way we play up, and quite often you find that the left or the right back's ahead of the winger when it comes to a lot of the moves, which is really great to see, and the way they'll tuck in behind the centre backs. I mean, it really is quite an unusual way to play. But Dallas, I think that in terms of quality, because there's nobody, when you've got a team, you're loyal to your players and you're playing well, you don't really want to say, oh well, I think and it sometimes annoys me on Twitter or some of the Facebook groups where people come in and pick a player and say, bang, bang, bang. I'm not really in great favour of that. The one bit that you're saying a left back, and I would sort of agree with you there. And I think they were looking at certainly there was a wee bit of speculation during the January window that they've maybe lined somebody up for the summer. But the bit to me between Click and Dallas is you've got two really, really good players who I'd be very loyal to. But there's what they're both great at is very similar. And what perhaps there's just a wee bit of lack is there's just maybe a slight lack of creativity at this level that doesn't get that last piece. And I think that I know this is the first time you and I have had a chat, so I don't know what your thoughts are on this. It'll be interesting to sort of hear them. There's been a lot of media hype about DePaul from Udinese, and to me, it sort of feels like there is a requirement for somebody with just a wee bit more of a spark. But then, if you look at the way, and just in my opinion, I don't want to come across as being tactically knowledgeable, because I would say I'm probably the opposite. But Bielsa Ball seems so determined to have classy wingers and midfield guys who just get the balls to the wingers. And you start going, how well would that work? But I do sort of feel that in the spine, there's just, somebody missing, 30 yards ahead of Phillips, who's a sort of more attacking Phillips option. I've seen, the thing is about the like of DePaul and that is everybody looks brilliant on YouTube. I'm sure if you strung some of my schoolboy performances together and never played for anybody other than my school, I could probably look good on YouTube. But I do sort of feel that we need a wee replacement there for Hernandez, and even in my eyes, I can sort of see that you just can't see Hernandez putting in 90 minutes at that pace. It's not whether he's fit or not. I just don't think that he's got the legs to do 90 minutes. And if he hasn't got 90 minutes in him, I think Bielsa's thinking he's not a starter. Then he's now an impact sub. What do you think about that whole Hernandez thing?
No, I think you're right. Hernandez is, like, to me, like Pablo is. He's done great things for Leeds. He's done great things for Leeds, and we owe him a great debt of gratitude. But at the same time, he's not our future. At his age, he can come on, he can have a cameo role. There hasn't been very many games in the Premier League where he has come on and made a big difference. But obviously you're looking for that kind of player, and I think you're right in what you're saying. Where I think at different parts of this season, we have there's kind of like two ways. Like at the start of the season, whenever Rodrigo got, I think he was injured, and then did he have COVID at one stage, and there was a few games where Click kind of played in like the more attacking midfielder, and I kind of felt like whenever that was the situation, that Click wasn't really linking up with Bamford as well as he should have been. But then whenever Rodrigo came back, I thought sometimes Rodrigo was a wee bit too gung-ho and left Click abandoned in the midfield sometimes. So I think somebody that is a more natural midfielder, but as you say, with that wee bit of creativity, that wee bit like the goal the other night that Dallas scored. Who was that against? Was it the Leicester game? Where he ran back. It was equaliser. I love it. That's what I want in the midfielder. You want a midfielder who can buy the striker.
Was it Bamford or Click?
Bamford set him up. Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, with Click, and I mean, I as I say, I don't like being. I don't want to underestimate any of our players. They're all professional footballers. They're all now Premiership footballers. It does slightly annoy me that they keep referring to, well, these are Championship players. Well, they're not anymore. If you've played 20 matches in the Prem, you're a Prem player, and if you're putting in a good performances, you're good enough for the Prem. They're maybe not top notch yet. What do you I mean, do you think that Click to me is one of the players that has sort of playing as well as last year, but I'm sort of expecting a wee bit more from him. I don't think he scored that many goals. And he did the season before last. He started off on fire. I take that back. He's had 3 goals this year, but importantly 5 assists with the exception of maybe tonight, because I know Rafinha assisted tonight. But I mean, 5 assists is as good as anybody else. So he's one of those sort of players that at the end of the game you might go, what did he do? Because he's not flash, but he actually really puts a good shift in.
To be honest with you, I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of him. A lot of people, I know he obviously got off to a bad start at Leeds, and he didn't really settle in well. He's come in, and people talk about he's not a Premier League footballer, but he's probably got more Poland caps playing alongside the guy who won the award for the best player in the world. So like he's played at a high standard. He's played good level of international football. I think he is one person that maybe got through under the bus a wee bit with the system. Just whenever he was playing in with Rodrigo, Rodrigo goes so far forward and Calvin's so far back and like almost taking the ball off the defense. And sometimes he's like a one-man midfield. And I don't care who you are. Like Stuart Dallas is probably the most energetic footballer I've ever seen, and he couldn't play a one-man midfield. I think that, as you say, if they were a wee bit more just creativity in there, just between the two of them, I'd be happy to go with them, with the two of them. But Click, to be fair as well, I thought his pass to Rafinha tonight was brilliant for Bamford's goal. Rafinha made it. Rafinha actually made the run, and to be honest with you, whenever Click made the pass, I thought, like, what is he doing? Because I didn't see the run. He's obviously, these are international footballers and they're seeing these things, and it was a great run. It was a great pass. It was unlucky that he didn't score, but obviously Paddy got the goal. His 100th goal in professional football. I was interested. The first thing I thought when he says 100 goals, I was like, I wonder has the most amount of goals he scored come for Leeds. And he's got 38 for Leeds and 33 for.
Yeah, I mean, there was actually just, thinking about coming on and having a wee chat, because, I haven't done this before. So it's sort of just taking a look at some of the wee bits and bobs, the stats, and the big difference, over the last number of years since the Premier League is the amount of stats that are available, which can mark performances. But it was great to see him get his 100th goal. He had a 9-game run at Palace where he didn't score a goal, so I'm sure that he felt pretty good to get that goal against them. And then when you look at that, he's at 12 goals this season, but he's also our top assist guy because he's at 5 assists. And again, social media is not always a great guide of really what's going on there, but the amount of crap that fella has taken on social media. And I remember my first game at Elland Road. I'll not bore you with it too much, but I remember it was a UEFA Cup game, and Ronaldo was playing for, not the original Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo was a teenager, and he was playing for, trying to think who it wasn't Ajax, but it was one of the. It was
PSV. ESV Eindhoven.
It was Eindhoven. So it was an unbelievable game, but I remember being really surprised at how when anything wrong, the crowd would shout and be quite negative. And I was, I haven't previously really been an armchair watcher. I would never thought that people would be so, could be so negative. So, but Bamford, to be fair to him, has, I think, been, I don't know, like a brick shit. I was sitting back going, I'm not going to let it annoy me. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And that wee lad must run Well, did you see the flick that he pulled on? I'm not sure what minute it was. It was a where he did. It was almost like a Van Persie-esque uh, push the ball around one side of the of. I'm trying to think who it was. I can't remember, but he pushed the ball around and ran on, and it was just an amazing run. He has got a good turn of pace. There's been a couple of goals where he's been running, good lengths of the football pitch. It was against Kale, in the 37th minute, and he flicked it past him, lost him. But I think the ball maybe bobbled when he was trying to put it into the top left corner. But that was pretty amazing. But
We'll blame it on the pitch.
The other stat that came up, and I actually wrote it down because I thought it was amazing, that Leeds have hit the woodwork more than any other team in the Premiership. 14 times in the season. Something flip me, we're top of some league anyway, but that was pretty amazing to see that stat. I thought, do you know what? And Harrison, who I think is brilliant, and his work rate is just brilliant. But I know he hit the bar, and that's where that wee stat came up from. And obviously he got the goal, but he was in the middle when he got the goal. Actually, Rafinha was so good. It was the Paddy and Rafinha show tonight in many ways. But Harrison actually didn't see much of the ball. It wasn't that he didn't have a good game. It was like, I would love to see, one of those heat graphs as to where the ball was. Pretty impressive. The other person I'd really like to shout out to tonight, I thought Cooper was brilliant again tonight. Now I know that he had an error in the game against Everton. I know that the lads took a bit of stick because there was a couple of goals against Everton which weren't brilliant, but I thought he had a really good game the rest of the game against Everton, and I thought tonight he was really, really solid. And there was one towards the end. Phillips didn't win the ball, and it might have been Benteke ran through, and Coops was brilliant. I've just got so much time for him, and he's another player gets slaughtered. And there's some unnice names about his. I think he's been remarkable. Now, I would have had my doubts that he would have been good enough for the Prem, but I think he along with Strike has really come on. I don't know what your opinion of Coops is.
Do you know what? He's one of these players where I tell you now, Cooper, Bamford. If you'd have said to him in the summer, what will they be like in the Premier League? I'd have been like, need to do better. Absolutely no doubt. I'm like, while I'm not going to call people names, I'll certainly say that, like, I think there's always, like, if you really want to improve, it's one thing being loyal to players, but whenever you have a better option there, you move on. Thanks for what you've done, and you move on, and you take a better player. But at the minute, like, you couldn't fault them. You couldn't sit there and say that Liam Cooper's not done well in the Premier League, because he's been fantastic. He was fantastic tonight. Struik again. We signed international centre backs from Spain and Germany. And do you know what? When they're fit, they're gonna have an issue to get their way into the team, and it's like, you can't fault it. Even that you were talking earlier about Struik, and he's a young fella, and he's had them few games in midfield, and I didn't think he played well in the midfield. I don't think he's a midfielder, and I think he is a centre back. But by God, there was 2 or 3 times tonight where he was getting the ball and he was in a difficult situation, and the next thing he just plays like a wee lofted pass across his own goal. You're like, it's everything they would tell you not to do, but it was so cool and so calm and fantastic to see it. Cooper, as you say, like I think the one you were talking about, I remember it myself because I sort of noted it myself when I was looking at it. I think it was Ayew made a run and got by like sort of 2 or 3 of them, and then
I think
just took him out. Just took him out. It was cool. Well, I say took him out. That sounds like he fouled him, but he just straight away. It was just very casual. Just got the ball off him. Very cool. But no, he's been brilliant. It's hard. Like, I'm sitting here tonight, and I was sitting thinking, and I was like, right, well, like, who would you give man of the match to? And for me, I would go Rafinha. I think the guy's unbelievable. But then I was sitting thinking, like, is there even more like a conversation to be had about who was Leeds' worst player? Because I thought they genuinely, like you could have maybe said Melia, because he didn't have an awful lot to do. It's not that he played bad. He kept a clean sheet, but the team were just very good and very good around him. And it's so good. The last 4 weeks, the last 4 games, obviously with that wee sticky start at the beginning of January, and things were starting, like we were maybe starting to feel a wee bit of pressure. I don't know about you, but I know I was starting to think like, oh geez, this could be a real meltdown here. And then we come out Newcastle. We played well. Apart the second half, we weren't great. Played really well in against Leicester. I thought we lost to Everton, but I thought we played really well in that game. Thought we were very unlucky to lose.
Look, I completely agree with you. At the end of that Everton game, normally speaking, the couple of days before, but certainly the couple of days after, how I think about things are definitely, guided by how did Leeds play. And I was actually quite chipper after the Everton game because that was one of those games where it's just football. I thought Liam Cooper came out and I thought he absolutely nailed it. He said, if you're going to lose, that's the way to lose. And that summed it up for me. There was something I was thinking about tonight. Now, I don't know, because we don't know each other that well, but maybe that'll change over the while. I don't know. Have you been lucky enough to get down road at all, or?
I haven't. I haven't.
Right.
I've been to a few I've been to a few games, a few Leeds games, but never at Elland Road. Never been at
Well,
Elland Road.
I declare my hand that I've been lucky enough. Although I live in Belfast, the company I work for, I would spend a bit of time in England from time to time. So I've been lucky enough to get to quite a few Premiership grounds, and I've been to Leeds quite a few times. And about when we were maybe 7 or 8 years ago, we had a box at Elland Road, the business, and got to see and be there a lot. But the one thing that I think will be a bit of a challenge is the Leeds fans are, pretty determined to see the ball move up the pitch. And tonight there was a passage of play because it counted. There was more than 40 passes, and the ball didn't get up to the much past the semicircle, and it was back again, and it was while Leeds were 1-0 up. And I wrote it down. I wrote down. I said, I hope the fans are as patient with their build up, as the players are being at the minute. And this has been a funny old season. The other night when Leeds lost to Everton, there was 5 away wins. All the matches were away wins. And I mean, I don't know what the odds were. I don't think anybody would have seen Liverpool losing their record at home. But 5 away losses. So that it is such a strange season that the fans are both support. So there was this guy we're saying, about Leeds having more wins with the fans there. Although to be fair, that's including Championship. But I wonder, will the fans be as patient? And I'll be honest with you, Jack, I don't think they will be. I think that even if we're 1-0 up or 2-0 up, there's that determination that leads to get the ball up a pitch and and try and get a shot away or whatever. And even so, a couple of times last season when I was over and I saw a couple of games at the beginning of the season last season, and the atmosphere of the team on the pitch was, and I'd been the previous year, I'd caught a couple of matches. I just knew Leeds were going to get promoted last year. The Bielsa methodology on the pitch was so much more obvious, even though it had started the year before. But the crowd still were, get the ball up the pitch, move. So I'm hoping that when the fans come back, that they remember and hold on a second, this is the way we play now. That'll be the other thing that's interesting is who's cutting the players' hair. I noticed that Rafinha had his wee blonde tips, and I don't know if you noticed that tonight or not.
Yeah.
He's sitting his missus or whoever, or he maybe stood it himself out of a bottle. What do you think?
I seen. I actually commented because I think it was Harrison was the one I was looking at, and his haircut looks right and fresh. But then I laughed as well because Paddy Bamford's hair is just going out. Like he definitely could do it going to one of these dodgy illegal barbers. Like, but see, just whenever you see, just whenever he says about the lots of, I actually took a note of that myself about the passing along in defence, and what I wrote was actually to ask you the question, and it was, I wrote lots of passing in defence, struggling to get through the lines, or are they content to take the sting from the game? So what do you think? Do you think they were struggling, or do you think they were just taking the sting out of it?
Right. Well, I think that it depends on the time of the game. So when I counted those passes, it was 1-0 up, and I'm trying to think. I think it was the first half. In
It
fact, I'm
was.
pretty sure it was the first half. So it wasn't a delaying tactic, but I think that Bielsa's tactics are that, well, first of all, you can only do it if you've got the ball. You can't dominate the ball if you don't have it. So it's keep the ball at all costs. Keep on to possession, which is the old Liverpool way during the 70s, and to be fair, it would have been the Leeds way during the 70s. So don't give the ball away. But they're definitely a little bit like a chess game. They're just playing to and fro across the back, and then they'll bring it to Phillips, and Phillips isn't worried about pushing it back again. And they're pushing the ball left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right, waiting for the opportunity to pull somebody slightly out of shape. So by pulling it so far wide to wide, and again, this is only my opinion. I don't want to come across as thinking, but I think that by using the extremities of the pitch, that's pulling teams out of shape, and then they get an opportunity, and they almost invariably will go down the line rather than through the middle. And when like Crawley's nothing. I've seen Leeds getting. I'm old enough to have seen Leeds getting knocked out of the FA Cup by people that would just make your hair curl. But against Crawley Town, they played in quite a narrow pitch. It was quite bumpy and all that sort of thing. But I don't think that they had just quite that amount of time and ability, because in the Prem I think you get more time than in the Championship when you're playing out from the back, because very few teams do pressure that hard. And funny enough, there was a couple of times tonight, and it happened. They started doing it again when Benteke came on, because they sort of stopped doing it in the middle of the match. Palace were actually pressing us, playing out from the goalie. And then they stopped doing it for a while. And then when Benteke came on the 76th minute or whatever it was, they started doing it a little bit again. And we are a little bit vulnerable to teams actually pressing us that way. And as you say as well, when we do the tight press, the problem is that one ball sort of over the top, and it can derail us a wee bit. So yeah. But it was, the bottom line though is when it's all said and done, that 2-0 win against a team that beat us 4-1 only, January, 3 months ago, 7th of November, I think it was. That is, pretty good. And our home form's been patchy. So it's good win. What do you think? What do you think for the Arsenal game coming up?
Yeah, well, I was talking to my dad about it earlier. He's a Leeds fan. He's been a fan since the 1970 FA Cup final, and we were chatting about it. And I says that I felt that we owed them one after we sort of battered them a wee bit at Elland Road and just couldn't get the win. So I would like to get something off them. They've been in patchy form, and it's kind of one of them games where I think it could be similar to the Everton game where both teams will have a go, and it's just kind of who hits the back of the net and who takes their chances, who makes the most of the opportunities. So I don't like. I'm not going into the game in any way fearing Arsenal. We're above them in the league for a start, and we've got a game in hand. Tonight took us above them, and as I say, we have a game in hand. So 32 points. I think they're on 30. So it would be nice if we could win that game and consolidate that position in the top half, even if we got a draw.
The one thing I didn't grab is it away, home or away?
It's away.
It's away. Yeah, Arsenal definitely have been patchy, and it's quite surprising. I would have thought that they would have got it together by now, and they sort of. They stuttered, and then they sort of pulled together, and now they started stuttering again. You can tell your dad I remember the 1970 FA Cup final well, so that might give me age away. It's probably the first cup final for Leeds that I can remember, although they played in a couple of seasons. I think the cup final in '68, but I just can't quite remember that. But I remember the pain of Gary's break, letting the ball. Houseman, I think, equalised, and Gary's break, bless him, he had a pair of butterfingers, which would come out every now and again. He let the ball through his under him for that equaliser in the original game. That was the actual two matches. It was like a war. Oh my God! You should get your dad on to
Was,
talk
was there
about
not
that.
was there not something like was there not some ridiculous amount of yellow cards or something in
Well,
the replay?
I don't think there was yellow cards in those days in 1970, but there was a number of bookings.
No,
But
I tell you what it was. It
it
was
yeah, I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
one of the guys on one of the referees, these celebrity referees that they have now, refereed it, and I think he said he would have given 17 or 18 yellow cards or something, and two or three reds or something.
Yeah, that's and it's funny enough when you were saying that, I was thinking that sparks him, and I think that he said that it could quite easily have ended up eight aside.
Uh,
But that was back in the days, and I mean, although it was exciting football, it wasn't attractive football at the best of times. And I remember that Leeds beat Southampton 7-1. Um, Bremner, it would have been the most of the sort of Revy team that you can think of. Maybe a couple of them mightn't have been there, but would have been about 72 or 73. And by the time they were six up, they were sort of slipping the ball to each other, and the crowd were cheering, and etc. So there's no way there was as many passes as Leeds were doing tonight. And the other difference is, I think, and again, and of course the pictures from those days may not have shown football at exactly the correct pace, but the pace that the game that say this Leeds team is playing at is so much faster than the pace that the game was played, in those days. And the pitches were mud baths. How the hell anybody ever managed to do anything on those pitches? Because from October to March, you were playing the mud bath, and I mean the ball would get held up in the mud, a big old leather ball. It was a completely different game in those days, completely different game.
I was actually watching some videos there the other day, and just like it was just some of the pitches they were like it was ridiculous. Like, and I've been reading a wee book as well at the minute about Revy's time at Leeds and that. So yeah, it's interesting, but it will be interesting to see how things go whenever the fans are back in. And as you say, I think certainly at the start there'll be plenty of patience, but I suppose if you're knocking the ball about and you're winning, I suppose the fans will maybe like it's sort of you see some of these Man Cities and all now, and it seems to be it's a wee bit kind of in vogue, knock the ball about and draw the opposition out, but I don't know. As long as at the end of the day, as long as we keep winning, keep moving forward, I don't think there'll be too many complaints. But as you say, the fans can be. I think John was on last night, JK, and he was talking about the Elland Road fans, like, and they can be nasty at times if things aren't going the way, And but I suppose
Yeah.
any fan base can be.
Well, I've been lucky enough to be at a few Premiership grounds, and the fans can be quite vocal. Leeds fans are definitely vocal pretty much all the time. They can be very quiet if they're not playing well at all and they're a couple down. They can be very quiet, but I suppose that would happen anywhere. The one thing that and the one difference between, say, even though the coverage with the number of different cameras that you have, what I actually, I'm sure you probably watch. I don't know if you do watch a couple of the under-23 games. No, I didn't get watch. I think there was one. Was there one today or yesterday?
Yesterday they beat
Yesterday was
Middlesbrough 4-2
4-2.
yesterday.
They were 4-0 up at half time, and I think they could maybe the foot off the gas a wee bit. But the fact that there's only one camera that sort of follows them around a bit about, you sort of see a wee bit more of what's happening elsewhere on the pitch. And the amount of work that those boys put in, you don't actually even really see it as much when versus real life. And I don't know if maybe I made this up, but I'm sure I heard somebody say that all the team are given a target number of kilometers to run, and if they don't run it in the match, they have to go home and make up the balance in a treadmill. Now, I don't know if that's an urban myth, but I'm fairly sure that that it might have been a commentator said that, not something on Facebook where you have to obviously maybe do a little bit of checking. Have you heard that?
I haven't, but it wouldn't surprise me with Bielsa. It's I do know that there was a stat there the other week, and it was certainly at that point in every game that Leeds had played this season, they had ran collectively as a team more kilometres than every other team they had played. So I know that was every single game they've played, which I think was tonight 22. I think 22 or 23 we've played now. So yeah, I know that was a stat definitely I've seen recently. But I think overall
22 or 23 kilometres running at the sort of pace, the average pace you go in a football match is a lot of pace. I mean, it shows you how fit those boys are, because half the Leeds team from the 70s, I don't think I would be surprised if it was much more than half that. And I don't mean that they were lazy. It was just that was the way football was. It definitely just wasn't as quick as that. Even if you look at the, I don't know what age you are and whether you remember the 1991-92 winning the old First Division with Wilco.
Kind of just remember it.
Yeah, it was just quite a different sort of pace. The pace of the ball now is pretty amazing. But the other thing that really amazes me about Leeds is how good they are at passing the ball to each other in really short spaces. I'm not sure that there's any. Maybe Man City might be pretty good at it, but I can't really. And actually Tottenham are quite good at it. But the speed that those boys can pass the ball between each other in a triangle, right on the edge of the line, and I do sit and go, I am amazed by it. So it's great to see the style of football. So the Arsenal game could be pretty tasty. I remember, of course, that my first recollection really of Arsenal was the 72 FA Cup final, and I did get to meet Alan Clark about 8 or 9 years ago, and had a bit of a chat with him. And it was lovely. I know that when you get to my age, all you have is stories, really. But I met him at Elland Road, and Norman Hunter was there, bless him, God rest his soul, and Paul Reaney and Terry Yorath, and they were all still calling him Sniffer. I thought that was fantastic.
I sometimes meet people I went to school with, and you're kind of scared to call them by their nickname. So it's good to see them boys in their 60s or 70s or whatever they were still calling them.
Alan Clark was taller than I would imagine he would have been.
Yeah.
So that I think the footballers are taller than they are. Actually, that's a really interesting point. The one thing that Leeds lack a wee bit of is big fellas. You saw that definitely against Palace. I remember when Palace rolled us over, I thought, geez, these lads are, all look about 2 or 3 inches taller and a stone heavier. And I don't mean overweight. I mean just, bigger lads. And who did I mention? Who did I notice that with as well? That turned us. West Ham looked like quite a big physical team as well. Everton definitely have got bruisers, although it was interesting to see Duncan Ferguson on the side of the pitch. He just looked like a man mountain, didn't he?
He's some crack, big Duncan. I think whenever you say about the size and some of the teams, it's one thing I actually noticed that really at the start of the season where like everybody we were playing in comparison to playing against championship teams last season, like yes, they're all very good footballers, but they're all phenomenal athletes as well. They're all really big, fit, strong. Like even like you see like Jordan Ayew there tonight. There was one stage where like he's not the biggest guy in the world, but there was 2 Leeds players at him, and like they just bounced off him. It's all they're so strong in that league. And it's something that obviously we'll have to work our way up to.
Yeah, that would be a wee bit of a concern that I'd have with the likes of Shaqs and Poveda. That those 2 boys are quite skillful, but they're not the biggest lads in the world. And although Shackleton, I think, he's another one that maybe has quite improved. But the 2 of those lads' stature isn't massive, and when they come on and replace anybody in our team, it's not like it's not like our average weight goes up or our average height goes up. In fact, it's a wee bit of the reverse. And when it comes to then the defending corners obviously is one thing, and then the other is trying to score from corners. Interesting is I think Strike had 3 good chances tonight. I think he needs to be on the training ground. I think he needs to be on the training ground tomorrow, being shown how to head the ball towards the goal instead of away from it. Yeah.
It's not very often you come out of a game and think your centre back should have had a hat trick, but on another night he could have done. But
definitely could have.
I think I don't know about you, but I see you're wearing a New York Jets top. So are you an American football fan, or is that?
Well, it's actually I'm a fan of the top more than anything else. Although I did sit up and watch Super Bowl last night. Super Bowl to me is a bit like the Grand National. I'll sit up and watch it. It takes me to the third quarter to remember what it is they're doing, and I just try and remember. It's a wee bit more. It's more like rugby league, throwing the ball forward, than it is rugby union, and I'd be a bit more of a union guy than a rugby league guy. But it was a fantastic game last night. Did you watch it yourself?
Yeah, I did. I was up there. I think it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock before I got to bed. So.
Well, I stayed to watch and see, the third quarter just to see if there was any comeback happening, but it wasn't. But it was awesome. What age is that fella? 41? Is he
43?
43. I mean, there's hope for us yet. There's hope for us yet. If somebody at that age can be.
He's won more Super Bowls himself than any team have won.
Any team, yeah. But they've a funny way of doing things, don't they? They sort of there's a lot more fluidity amongst the teams in terms of the way they pick players. The contracts aren't as long, or I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to say
it's all. Well, I suppose like you've got obviously the draft and all different sorts of like it's very different. Like, but no, it was an enjoyable enough game. I was a wee bit disappointed that it wasn't a tighter match, but I've got I was sort of sitting watching this match tonight and thinking I'm going to go on and do this interview and I'm going to be tired, and if Leeds get beat, I'm going to be in bad form. But we got the win, so at least we're happy about that anyway.
Well, and as I say, the only thing that comes with age is you've got more stories. I've been in that stadium in Tampa.
Mm-hmm. The Raymond James, isn't it, stadium?
Yeah, I think it might have been called the Tampa Bay Stadium when I was there. I think it might have changed name, but again, I might be wrong with that. But it's the football field in Tampa, and I was there in 1989. You were probably still. I don't know if you were born. Were you born by then?
1984, I was born, yeah.
Right, well, you would have been still in early infancy, and I was at a Rolling Stones concert in 1989 in that stadium with a mate of mine who is a Belfast lad who lives out there. Actually, I was speaking with it today. He works in sound production and movies, and I was working here, and it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He was going off to work, and the film productions have restarted, although with sort of loads of social distancing. And who was we working with today? But Brad Pitt. So my daughter was quite keen to hear all about that, and I'm sitting thinking, I'm stuck working from home in my bedroom. I think something went wrong in my life. I'm not quite sure where it was. It might have been I took the wrong exit out of that concert because I was with him at that concert. So anyway,
he's with Brad Pitt, and you're spending the evening with me. So
well, you're far better looking than Brad Pitt. Although these glasses are brilliant, to be honest.
So my mommy says anyway. But
and then, well, I see from your bio that you've got quite a few teams. Some of them are playing better than others.
Well, I've sort of from I was a wee lad. My dad obviously was a Leeds fan, and then my uncles were Celtic. So it was always like they were giving me Celtic tops and Celtic posters, and then my dad was like, if you don't say you support Leeds, you're all this scare nonsense. And then sort of as I got older, then I picked up a bit of a like for Barcelona as well. So, but So sometimes I say Barcelona's the only one I choose myself. I kind of had the other two put into me. But ironically, the reason I like Barcelona was because of the man you were talking about earlier, the original Ronaldo was
Right, right, right.
this it was the season he was there, and I think I maybe had a top or something, and it just kind of stuck from then. But yeah,
Well,
so
I don't know if it'd be right, but I think that when I saw that game with Ronaldo in it, and they were playing PSV in the UEFA Cup as it was in those days, I think the score might have ended up being something like 5-2 or 5-3, and Ronaldo definitely scored one, if not two. I tell you what, yeah, you've this it. He was as light as a feather and still strong. He might have been 17 or 18. He went through our defense a couple of times like a hot knife through butter at a speed, and I mean literally at a blur. And the ball was in the net, and you go, you're sort of the first your first live match. You sort of look up thinking you're going to see an action replay. There wasn't any in those days. He was absolutely amazing to watch, and I still can to this day remember just seeing him like a flash going around the place. He's put on a
I
wee bit of weight since then.
I certainly has. I think from watching over his career, whenever he had like the PSV years and the Barcelona years, like kind of before he got the knee injuries at Inter Milan, like I think you could definitely put him up with Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo of the modern era.
No doubt
And
about it.
obviously, like even after he got his injuries, he was still probably, if not the best striker in the world, top two or three. But before the knees went, man, he was something else. Like, but anyway, as I say, we had a late night last night for the Super Bowl. We had a late night tonight for watching Leeds. So Brian, will you join me again at some point?
I definitely will. I've enjoyed tonight.
Good man. Good man.
It made me watch the football in a slightly different way. I think that's the first game that I've ever taken a few notes to make sure I knew what I was talking about. So, which felt a wee bit under pressure, but it was very enjoyable. Yes, I'd be happy to join you again if you want to have me back. So,
Yeah, brilliant. We've got the wee group. So, as I say, I'll be catching up. And one thing I'm interested in doing is some of the ones that have been coming on and some of the guests is kind of getting like the wee sort of like background stories and stuff, and like why do you support Leeds? What's your favorite memories of supporting Leeds? So we'll not do that for now, but we'll maybe get you on to do some of that as well at some point. I know there's a few of them I would like to hear how it happened, especially
yeah,
because
well, I've
especially
got a
us
few.
guys where we're not from Leeds. It's like
Yeah,
it's easy
yeah.
for like how did it happen? So
Yeah,
it's
we've got a
definitely
few.
something I want to do.
I've got a few cracking stories about meeting a few players and a few things that have happened at Elland Road, and I be happy to share those at some stage. We'll maybe keep those for another night, as you say. But sure, give me a shout. Be happy to join you. And thanks for inviting me on, Jerry. It's been an interesting evening, and our 20 minutes became an hour, but that's largely because of me just talking out my head. Thanks very much.
Let me tell you, if Leeds had lost it, it'd have been 10 minutes. But, but,
Yeah,
but no, thanks for
right.
coming on. And as I say, we will get you back on, and we'll be back. I'm sure. I think I'll have another couple of episodes over the next few days with the Arsenal game and that. So I'll put in the wee message and see what everyone's availability is like in that. So
Grand
thanks to
job.
Brian. Thanks to anybody watching, and most of all, thanks to Leeds for winning tonight. At least I didn't have to have a sore one like last Wednesday night whenever I had to sit and stop myself from crying because we got beat by Everton. But thanks very much, Brian, and we'll catch up again soon. So thanks
Catch
everybody
you
for
again.
watching.